Hey guys, so I'm here today with a video I should have done a long time ago. I feel really awful about this, but I just haven't had the time to sit down and put the thought into it that I needed to. And that is a review of Nervous Conditions by Tsitsi Dangarembga. I put this in my favorites video a long time ago, and it's still one of my favorites. But I haven't been able to do a review of it because I haven't read it in so long. It's taken me forever to sit down and get my thoughts together on it. It was probably about 2 years ago that I actually read it, and I read it for a class. It still has all my tabs and big chunks of it are highlighted. I'm just going to jump into it. The main character, Tambu, is a teenage girl. She lives in Africa, and she wants nothing more than to be educated. But unfortunately, her older brother is the only one that they can afford to send to school. The beginning of the novel starts with her finding out that her older brother has died, and because of that, she will now be able to attend the missionary that her uncle, Baba Makuru, is in charge of. And so this takes her away from her homestead with her parents, and it puts her in the world of the English missionaries. Her uncle, although he is a native man, has become engrossed in the English culture, and so he fully embraces it. He lives in a big European-looking house, and he runs a mission school, and he tries to raise his family in a very British lifestyle. This is totally the opposite of everything that Tambu is familiar with. At the homestead, she lives in a hut, doesn't have running water or anything like that, and they all sleep in one room. So, coming from that culture and being placed straight into something that is so European, it's difficult for her. This book is basically a record of how Tambu and her cousin Nyasha deal with living in a British-based society in their native country. This novel is a piece of post-colonial literature. Like most post-colonial lit, it deals with the idea of othering. You are not British, you are the other, or you are not African, you are the other. But in Tambu's case, she's very much, I'm not one or, I am both and. If that makes any sense at all. Because she is not purely African. And so basically deals with how someone navigates their way through two cultures simultaneously without getting lost in one or the other. When she goes off to the missionary school, she's not fully embraced because she doesn't have the knowledge of the British ideology that the other students have. And when she goes back to her homestead, she's too British for her parents to really understand her and accept her. There's one section of the book that I think really embraces this, and it's one of the giant chunks that I have highlighted. And so at one point it says, Nyasha says, "The parents ought to have packed us off home. They should have, you know. Lots of people did that. Maybe that would have been best, for them at least, because now they're stuck with hybrids for children, and they don't like it. They don't like it at all. It offends them. They think we do it on purpose, so it offends them. And I don't know what to do about it, Tambu. Really, I don't. I can't help but having been there and grown into me like that has been there. But it offends them, and I offend them. Really, it's very difficult." And that's the way most of the novel is. They want to fit in, but they just can't seem to fit in either category because they have too much of the other in them. And Tambu wants so badly to be educated, but in order to be educated, she needs to almost become British, and really, to completely finish off her education, she would need to go to England. But to leave her family behind is not something she's necessarily willing to do, and to totally absolve her relationship with her own native culture is not something she's willing to do. This novel being semi-autobiographical, you can see some of those issues start to come up, like what language? Does she want to be educated by her own people in her own native language, or do you want to be educated by the English teachers in English and learning a British education? That's another big issue, is what they are learning. They are learning a British curriculum. So while she is getting educated, she's only being taught what the missionaries want her to know, and the side of the story that the English wants them to learn. So education also plays a big role in this. Another big issue that comes up is religion and how that impacts lifestyle. Tambu's parents at the beginning of the novel are not married, and at one point Baba Mukuru, her uncle, decides that in order for things to get better for their family and for their family to be more prosperous, they need to stop living in sin and they need to get married. Which is not what their culture believed. But according to Baba Mukuru's British ideals, being married is the only way to have a true family. And that is the cause of all of their poverty. But of course, Tambu and her family do not necessarily agree with that. In fact, it doesn't make much sense to them why they should waste exorbitant amounts of money on a wedding when they're already in such poverty. Why would you spend that extra money? But Baba Mukuru, being the head of the family, does not see any other way for them to rise up out of their poverty and to have a stable home. And another big issue that comes up, branching off of that, is patriarchy. Baba Mukuru is the head of the family. Not just his household, but the entire family unit. And part of that is to do with wealth and status, which all links back to him being part of the mission. It's also the fact that he is a man. These issues are cultural, but the way he speaks to his wife in particular, I find appalling. And it is very much he is the man, he says what goes, and we all must follow and listen. And that is just the way that is. This book, although it is a fairly short novel, there are just so many layers to it. You can look at the cultural aspects, you can look at the idea of identity, which is personally my favorite. Who am I, and how much of that is affected by my family, my culture, my ideals. Like, how much of who you are is actually impacted by everyone that surrounds you in your life. And then how lost do you feel when no one accepts you because you're too different from everybody. There's also the idea, there's an eating disorder issue in there, and there's the idea of control, the patriarchy. There's also a layer of sexuality and how that fits into culture and your identity. There are just so many layers to this that while going through it again to do this video, I now want to pick it up. I don't know when I'm going to have time to pick it up, but I really, really want to and reread it because it is just so well written. P.S. On a side note, there is a sequel to this. I don't remember exactly what it's called. It was published many years after. I have not personally read it, but I've heard that it is very disappointing. I will probably pick it up at some point just because I want to form my own opinions on that, and I want to read it myself before I make any judgments. But there is a sequel out there, just in case you were wondering. That's all I have for you, and have a good night.